Chapter 20. The elevator dinged, and the big silver double metal doors whispered open. William followed Dr. Young to a set of big white double doors. Dr. Young ran the keycard around his neck past the card reader. A buzzing noise commenced, followed by distant thunder.
Dr. Young.
Dr. Young pushed the door open, allowing William to pass through first. He patted William on the back and said,
"My God, it's pouring out there. Okay, William, have a seat in that chair."
William looked and saw a black rolling chair in the middle of a small white room. 3 doctors were already working in the room. 2 were working at a control panel, while the other had gloves and was plugging in some sort of electrical terminals. There were 2 large viewing windows and another door in the room that led to the other smaller room behind them. 2 big grey chairs sat in the center of that room. There was a person already in the left chair. He was bald and had a recognizable scar that almost startled William. "Is that Logan?" "They said the patient's name was John." William turned quickly to Dr. Young and asked, "Is that..." Dr. Young finished.
"Yes, William, that is John. He's the patient I told you about. He's an old military man, about 50 years old. Claims he fought in hundreds of battles ages ago. Schizophrenia was the first guess, of course. Anyway, he's catatonic now. And that's why we brought you here, William. If indeed what you have been telling me about your dreams is true, then I'd say the chances of you meeting him subconsciously are rather high. William, we've spent an abundant amount of time and resources in the studies of this patient. It's now time for that all to come to an incredible breakthrough."
William walked over and sat down on the chair from inside the viewing room. The doctor with the clippers quickly began buzzing off William's hair. William stopped putting himself in a panic and enjoyed the feeling of the cutters buzzing across his head. He knew that worrying about whether it was John or Logan in the chair would soon be irrelevant, so William just relaxed. When the doctor finished the buzzing, he pulled out a bowl of warm water, a towel, and a bland and simple razor. He began to shave William's head. After the doctor was finished, he quickly dried William's head off and said, "All right there, guy. You're ready to go." William reached up and touched his bald head for the first time. It was weird, but neat to William. It almost felt like a numb sensation, and it tingled. William continued to rub it as Dr. Young smiled and said,
"Hey now, bald is beautiful. It's a good look on you, son. Follow me right this way, Mr. Iris."
William laughed and followed him into the extremely bright and well-lit room with John. William saw a big machine in between John's cumbersome and reclined chair and his own. William asked, "What is that, Dr. Young?"
That there, William, is what we call the EEG. It tells us when there's an electrical activity in the brain. We're going to have you and John connected simultaneously. Now, you will have to be put out for a while for us to get you truly connected with John subconsciously. Just lie down here on the chair, William, and I'll be right back to give you the anesthesia, okay?
William nodded and began to lay down on the chair. He then sat up and leaned forward to look at John's face again. He then noticed that the scar was definitely the same swirling marks around the left eye, but the face was clearly not the same. William saw the military in John's war-weathered face. The man had a very mysterious look about him, chiseled and strong. He had a darker and more Latin tone. John aged almost too well for 50 years old. Dr. Young came back into the room with a small cart and an IV. He then began to hook up about 20 electrodes to William's head. William didn't realize that he was a medical doctor as well. He always just pictured him sitting in his office or talking to people who lay on couches. Dr. Young then said while swabbing William's arm with alcohol,
"All right, William, you can count if you want. This will knock you out for just a bit. Hopefully you fall into the dreams you describe, and we'll see you when you come back."
William felt the small, sharp pain for a moment. The effects began to kick in as he closed his eyes and relaxed while breathing deep breaths. Dr. Young, saying to the doctors in the other room, broke a moment of silence.
All right, men. You should be getting a lesser reading by now.
There was a pause from the other doctors, and then they shook their heads and said through the loudspeaker,
Still normal, Dr. Young.
Dr. Young looked down and smiled at William and said,
William, are you still resisting the tranquilization?
William poked one eye open and smiled, saying, Sorry, Doc. It's a habit. I get defensive when it starts making me sleepy. William then purposely allowed the feeling of tiredness to grow and drifted off quickly into darkness. Dr. Young found it amazing for William to be able to command how the anesthesia worked on himself with his mind alone. Dr. Young then thought,
Such an amazing gift. But why? What's its purpose?
The doctors looked at Dr. Young and said through the intercom,
Okay, he's showing unconscious levels now. Whoa, hey! Dr. Young, you better come look at this.
Dr. Young went through the doors and looked at the screen.
What is it, boys?
Well, as soon as patient 1011 drifted off, John's activity seemed to have surged. Dr. Young smiled. Two of the board members and Dr. Huffman came through the double doors and greeted Dr. Young.
Dr. Huffman.
Dr. Young then said,
Men, glad you could make it. You're right on time. Our two patients seem to have a connection after all.
Dr. Huffman said,
Well, I'll be damned. You mean to say that their activity is in sync?
Dr. Young said,
Well, not exactly in sync. It looks more like when two conscious people have a conversation. It's more like a volley of activity.
The screen showed much more than a simple EEG reading. Multiple high-end monitor displays mapped out neurological structures of both William and John's mind. The men all watched the mesmerizing actions on the screen as William and John lay in the other room. William found himself in the place where butterflies never die once again. He was standing on the same road that Logan had shown him, but without Logan. Where is he? William thought. An eeriness filled William's mind as he looked at the same house that Logan pointed William to. He remembered that Logan said he wasn't done yet. He didn't know what that meant, but felt he'd soon find out in that boarded-up house. William slowly crept up to the house, because thousands of overcast still swarmed over it. William came up to the front door and peeked through the small window that was on it. He then continued to look through the small area where the boards weren't covering the view. When William looked through, he saw writing all over the walls. The room was horribly lit by a small television on a stand that seemed to be constantly changing channels. William then saw something that even made all of the dream sounds around him stop in dead silence. He saw a chair sitting a few yards away from the TV. The chair was facing away from the TV. This odd effect strangely chilled William's spine. William started to peel off the boards as he knew that he had to get inside. He took each board off one by one until the entire door was unveiled. He slowly turned the old beaten brass doorknob until the door clicked open. William stepped into the dark house. He crept up to the big chair, where all he saw was an elbow hanging off the chair's arm. He clinched up as he slowly walked around and caught a man's attention. The man jumped at William and yelled what seemed to be in a lower, heroic voice.
Ah, it's you, my godson. Do you realize how long I've waited to find one other goddamn person with the understanding who might make it to me? Get down and stay quiet, kid. The overcast will kick our asses in here. We can't be compromised. I've got some understanding left, son, but not much.
William crouched down when the man told him to. He then asked, Do you know Logan, sir? The man stared and replied,
Know him? Hell, kid, you don't catch on quickly now, do you? I am Logan's son, or at least I was. I was speaking through Logan for a bit. Logan is in David's mind. I've been looking through other people's minds for almost a decade now, trying to find someone with the understanding. Shit, kid, it looks like you've got it. How long you had it?
William said in a guessing voice. A few months? I have no clue. Maybe my whole life. I'm not sure. The man stood up and replied,
A few months? Don't bullshit me, kid. It takes lifetimes to acquire the understanding. Unless... Holy shit, kid. The tilt. I'll tell you all about the tilt later, okay? For now, there are more important things for you to know.
William just shrugged his shoulders. He noticed the man was wearing the same institution outfit as his. William then said, Wait a minute. You're John, aren't you? The man said back,
Wow. Haven't heard someone else call me that since Dr. Young. Yeah, I'm John. Listen, kid, I saw the overcast take your family that night. I knew it was the first strike toward the tilt, but didn't think it would be connected to a newborn of the understanding. You're William Iris. They were after you, son. Only you.
This angered William. But he went on. Yeah. How do you know who I am? Thought you were catatonic. John responded in a calm and stone-cold tone.
Kid, you've got a lot of learning to do. I'll help you out, though. It's all right. I've watched you fight the overcast time and time again. You lack fear. That is good. They search for fear and hate as a host. They feed on love and life just like you. David has told you.
What about anger? John said back.
Nah, they're afraid of it. Shit, they practically smell it. That's why they need fear and hate. They dilute anger. Anger is often misunderstood, William. Anger isn't the result of weakness or the inability to handle something. True anger comes from the innocent being attacked. It's the fight rather than the flight. It's power, kid. Come look at this.
They walked over to the walls and John showed William what the writing was about. William saw graphs and drawings. He saw Bible verses from different religions and equations from different sciences. William saw one that looked like John's scar, only this one was turned horizontally. What's this one all about?
That one there, kid, is about everything you can have. The two slashes swirling on the outside means positive and negative, and the center portion being the entity that lives and chooses its positives and negatives. It's the playing field for the ones and zeros in life. All of existence has its laws and balance. Human emotions simply replicate and act out the laws through our dramatic actions, although I wouldn't really call you a human anymore. You're no longer a dreamer, William. When you wake up, you will then belong to the understanding. The dreamers hold the free will, kid. Choice. The slashes in that symbol could even mean heaven and hell, while the circle in the middle of the slashes is earth. Just like when you swing a golf club, the ball is merely a consequence to your swing. A lot of things in life come in threes, kid, and two of the three are exact opposites. The third is just the fulcrum. The understanding is an ability, William. It's the ability to see truth. It also makes you more of a weapon instead of a person. You're a weapon that can decide where it wants to look and where it searches to find truth. In your science, they say you hold a positive charge in your mechanical structure. Of course, the overcasts hold a negative. Billions of years in evolution of mere dust and vibrations have brought themselves to this, William. Let me show you something.
William peeked out the window as John directed and saw Earth. It was strange though. It seemed as if all of it was there, How could someone remember all of Earth in its entirety? John had an entire memory of the planet itself, fresh within his mind. Usually, when William was in someone's mind, he would only be able to travel through the world as they remembered it. For most people, it ended right at their very own town. For others, it was larger. But for John, it looked like all of it. The whole damn planet. Are these really all the memories of John? Or just another dream from William? He didn't know. He figured maybe it was a little of both. Or maybe he was in John's dream. William asked John, "How is all of this in your head?" John said back, shaking his head with a smirk.
Funny, for someone with the understanding, you don't seem to know what's going on.
William replied, "No, I don't." John laughed and replied,
All right, William, stick with me here.
Just when William thought John was going to open his mouth and talk, John grabbed William's shoulder instead. He felt a rush of intense energy and lost sight as the world that stood before him seemed to go in rewind faster than anything he had ever seen. He couldn't seem to make anything out from it. The planet soared beneath them at a faster speed than one could fathom. Days, nights, weeks, years, eons went by. Then William saw life through another's body. This body he was in didn't seem to run like a normal man. From the first-person view that William had, the head swayed a lot more and was a little closer to the ground than William was used to. It ran through jungle, on and on through thick jungle until it came to a 20-foot drop. William expected it to stop running, but it just jumped straight off. William's heart raced as they quickly fell to the ground. They finally hit the ground as William felt a little energy seem to barely slow the fall. The being rolled on the floor a few times, bounced straight back up without even stopping, and continued to run until it came up to some water and peered into it, revealing to William its identity. It looked like an early form of man. It had John's scar on its left eye. It must have been early man. It must have been John. The view peered upward and stared at dusk sky so clean that every star in the galaxy was visible. Within this canopy of stars sat a great pyramid. Lush jungle surrounded it. The great structure stood mighty and wonderful in this ancient realm. Time sped up quickly again, and William found himself in an Egyptian setting. The same pyramid, but sitting in dry desert. Then Rome, England, America, all different battles, all different lives. But there was the same man with the same scar. He saw glimpses of man in space, presidential speeches, Hitler in power, king's speeches, American soldiers, and 2 towers going down that William remembered the most. Because he was just a young kid in school when his and every other American's sky fell that day. They all felt the descent within. William then saw the institution, the dream world with the overcast and all that had happened. He saw the world go dark as he sat in a white room in the corner. He then saw himself through John's eyes. William found himself back in John's house.
I've been through time and back. There were others like us, but they were overwhelmed by the overcast. We are scattered now. Most of us are in bloodlines that had forgotten our understanding, and for the first time ever, we might have to face the overcast physically. In the conscious world we call Earth. The overcast is most similar to a disease, William. It spreads from one negative thought to another, and it creates its own existence. Now you know the story, William. When we wake up, I will leave only to meet you again when help is needed. But help will not be needed until humans are almost completely consumed by the overcast. It is then that there will be a new beginning once more. Just as every empire has fallen, so does every species and age. The universe swings like a pendulum, causing an in and out effect to the naked eye. The pendulum stops when it's straight up and down in complete harmony with balance. This is when a universe shifts into a habitable state. Then it tilts according to which side pulls the hardest, the positive or the negative. Universe, atoms, animals, planets, galaxies, they all work the same, son.
Suddenly, the overcast blew through the roof. William fell from surprise. John cursed and held his hand up, blocking the overcast with his mind. William scurried to a corner and stayed down as John ran and propped his body against the door and yelled to William.
I'll hold the door and overcast, William. We must defeat them or I will not wake up. If I do, they will take me completely.
William couldn't move. He was terrified from all that he had taken in from John. That, and also the gargantuan numbers of overcast outside. William grabbed his head as it hurt like hell from the constant overcast streams. John then yelled,
Oh yeah, William, don't forget, there are 3 types of understanding.
William could barely hear John over the screeching and fluttering from the overcast swarming. John went on while holding them all off.
1 is the instinctual stage. It sheds light of remedy, the understanding, and the positive energy. It has the most power to destroy a good amount of the overcast without the subject even knowing of its presence. Everyone has this. You've witnessed David accomplish this. It's the most powerful, but unwieldy by the mind. This is a natural result of positive energy in the mind. Any normal human can do it. None can control it. The second is the subconscious stage. Physically face your fears through nightmares, building up the subconscious to be as strong as the conscious. This is what you've done recently yourself. The third and the last one is the understanding. When subconscious and conscious are merged as one for a true reality. This means all consciousness will exist on Earth. It's never been done. If it were to happen, there are 3 laws that restrain your power. You can't lift more than your own mass with your mind, for your mass is what you are and the power you hold, unless you train your mind to be stronger. Also, you can't restructure what has been structured by nature. Lastly, the overcast can quickly find you when you use your understanding, just as your eye hurts when they use their energy in order to find them in return. Oh yeah, and you may feel your head tingle behind your scar when you use the understanding. Don't worry, it's normal.
William was scared to death, but remembered all that John had told him. Overcast was swarming around the structure as John kept his concentration on holding the door shut. William felt like he wasn't going to make it, and his heart nearly pounded out of his chest. John yelled out,
William, for Christ's sake, listen to me. Hold on to your thought.
William crouched down on the floor and began to panic. Thunder ripped through the sky like a jagged blade tears through metal. The storm grew worse outside the institution as well. The doctors watched in amazement as the machine went haywire with brain activity for both patients and began to spark and jump. The electrodes around William's head seemed to glow with electricity in an odd white hot shape on both sides of his head. Dr. Young, being the only one in the room, ran over to unplug the machine. He kicked at the receptacle and knocked the plug out, but nothing happened. It wouldn't turn off. William looked up at John and saw his mouth moving and faintly heard the words.
It's too late now. Wake me up when you get back.
He saluted William, and suddenly everything went white as William heard a loud, high frequency, followed by a gigantic inward implosion sound. William's world went black. Meanwhile, Dr. Huffman upstairs held his flashlight up to an infected patient's face. He had never seen someone's eyes steam before. It was as if they were so cold that the fluids in the eye were being evaporated by normal room temperature atmosphere. He leaned in for another look at the dots. They were starting to bleed and had a rusty black-colored center. Dr. Huffman did not like any of this at all.